Every year, after 60, your risk of a life-altering fall doubles. Yet most American seniors are strengthening the wrong muscles in the wrong way at the wrong time of day. In Japan, where people over 80 routinely live independently without walkers or fear, there is one dirt-simple movement practiced for 60 seconds each morning that has been quietly protecting balance, bone density, and brain circulation for generations. It takes no equipment, costs nothing, and the research emerging from longevity centers suggests it may rewire your nervous system faster than anything you learned in a gym. Here is what they are not telling you. The Western fitness industry built an empire on heavy weights and high-impact cardio, but after 60, those protocols often accelerate joint wear and spike cortisol exactly when your body craves gentler, smarter load. Meanwhile, in rural Japanese villages where 90-year-olds still tend rice paddies and walk miles on uneven ground, the secret is not strength in isolation. It is integration. Every movement trains your eyes, your inner ear, your foot sensors, and your brain to work as one system. That is why a 75-year-old in Okinawa can stand on one leg to slip on a shoe without even thinking, while here in the States, we grab the wall. Today, you are going to learn the 10 movements that Japanese elders do daily, in the order that matters. From the simplest reset, most of us skip to the one exercise that researchers now believe is the single greatest predictor of how long you will live without assistance. Number 2 on this list surprises even physical therapists because it happens lying down and feels like rest, yet it has been shown to improve gait speed within 2 weeks. But number 1, the movement I am saving for last, is so short and so humble you will be tempted to dismiss it. Do not. In one small trial, seniors who added it to their morning routine reduced their fall risk by 43% in just 8 weeks, and the mechanism behind it is finally making sense to neuroscientists. Before we go further, drop a comment right now and tell me your age and where you are watching from. I want to know who is here, because the adjustments I will give you depend on whether you are 62 or 82, whether you are in Florida or Montana, whether you are already active or just getting back on your feet. Just your age and location. That is it. Let's start. Number 10. Ankle circles with weight shift. You probably think your ankles are fine because you can walk to the mailbox, but here's the truth. After 60, the proprioceptors in your ankle, those tiny sensors that tell your brain where your foot is in space, start firing 15 to 20% slower. That delay is why you catch your toe on a rug or misjudge a curb. In Japan, every morning movement sequence begins with the ankles because they understand that balance is not built at the hip. It is born at the point where your body meets the ground. Stand next to a counter or a sturdy chair, feet hip-width apart. Lift your right heel so only your toes touch the floor, then slowly draw 10 circles with that heel, 5 clockwise, 5 counter. Your ankle should feel like a lazy swivel, not a stiff hinge. Now shift your weight gently forward onto the ball of that foot. Hold 2 seconds, shift back to flat. Repeat 5 times. Switch legs. The entire sequence takes 90 seconds. Why does this matter? Your ankle has more nerve endings per square inch than almost anywhere except your fingertips. When you move it slowly and deliberately, you wake up the entire sensory highway from foot to brain. Studies from balance labs in Tokyo have shown that just 2 weeks of daily ankle mobility work can improve single-leg standing time by as much as 30% in people over 70. That is the difference between stepping off a curb confidently and hesitating, which is when most falls happen. I worked with a woman named Barbara, 71, former school teacher, who loved gardening but had started shuffling because she no longer trusted her feet on uneven soil. I told her to do ankle circles every morning while her coffee brewed, shifting her weight as if she were testing the ground. 2 weeks later, she was kneeling in her tomato beds again. No fear. She said it felt like someone turned the lights back on in her feet. If you have arthritis in the ankle, do the circles in warm water, in the tub, or a basin. If standing is hard, sit in a chair and extend your leg. Draw the circles in the air. The motion is what counts, not the load. And here is the kicker. Most people stop here thinking they have done their ankle work, but this is just the wake-up call. The real balance magic comes when you add instability, and that is next. Number 9. Tandem stance hold. In English, we call it heel-to-toe standing, but in Japanese senior centers they call it the tightrope test, and it is one of the fastest ways to find out if your balance system is asleep at the wheel. You stand with one foot directly in front of the other, heel touching toes, as if you were walking a line, and you hold that position without wobbling. Sounds easy. It is not. Here is what happens in your body. When your feet are together in a narrow base, your brain has to recruit your deep core muscles, the ones that wrap your spine like a corset, and it has to coordinate input from your eyes, your inner ear, and those ankle sensors you just woke up. If any one of those systems is weak, you will sway or step out, and that tells you exactly where the gap is. Research from fall prevention clinics shows that people who cannot hold a tandem stance for at least 10 seconds have nearly double the fall rate over the next year compared to those who can hold 30 seconds. Stand next to your counter again. Place your right foot in front of your left, heel to toes, like you are on a balance beam. Let your arms hang loose or rest fingertips lightly on the counter, just enough to feel secure, but not to hold your weight. Look straight ahead at a single spot on the wall. Do not look down. Hold for 10 seconds. If you wobble, that is fine, just notice it. Switch feet. Do this 3 times per side. Work up to 30 seconds over the next few weeks. Here is the mechanism. Your inner ear has fluid-filled canals that sense motion, but after 60, those canals can get a little sluggish, and your brain starts to rely more on vision and less on vestibular input. That is why you feel unsteady in the dark or on thick carpet. Tandem stance forces your brain to integrate all 3 systems at once, and that cross-training is what keeps your nervous system sharp. I guided a man named Eugene, 68, retired electrician, who told me he felt drunk whenever he walked on gravel or grass. His doctor found nothing wrong. I had him practice tandem stance every morning and every evening, 30 seconds per side. Within 10 days, he said the world felt more solid under his feet. Within a month, he was hiking trails again. He did not get stronger. He got better wired. If you cannot hold the position at all, start with a wider stance, one foot a few inches ahead of the other, and gradually narrow it week by week. If you feel very unstable, do it in a corner where you can touch 2 walls. Do not skip this. It is the bridge between waking up your ankles and teaching your whole body to trust itself. And now we go lower. Number 8. Deep squat mobilization. Not the gym squat you are picturing, loaded with a barbell and a prayer. This is the natural human resting position that every child can do, and most American adults have lost by 40. In Japan, especially in older generations, people still drop into a deep squat to rest, to garden, to wait for a bus. Heels flat, knees wide, torso upright. It opens the hips, decompresses the spine, pumps fluid through the knee joints, and teaches your body that you are safe in a low position. That last part is crucial because fear of getting down to the floor is one of the first dominoes in the aging cascade. Here is the problem. Somewhere in your 50s or 60s, if you stop squatting, your hip flexors shorten, your ankles stiffen, and your brain starts to mark ground level as dangerous territory. Then one day you drop something and you do not bend to pick it up. You avoid the floor. You stop playing with grandkids. You lose the movement, then you lose the confidence, then you lose the life that happens low. Stand facing your counter, feet slightly wider than shoulder width, toes angled out about 30 degrees. Hold the edge of the counter lightly with both hands. Slowly lower yourself as far as you can, keeping your heels down and your chest lifted. If you can only go a quarter of the way, that is your start. Hold for 10 seconds, breathing slowly. Press through your heels to stand. Do this 5 times. Every few days, try to go a little deeper. Why does this matter? Your hip joint has more range of motion than almost any other joint. But we live in chairs and we walk on flat ground, and we never ask our hips to do what they were designed to do. A deep squat restores that range, and in doing so, it restores your ability to recover if you trip, to get up from the floor, to move through space without fear. A study from a mobility research group found that seniors who could perform a full, deep squat had significantly lower rates of hip fracture over a 10-year period, not because their bones were denser, but because they had the strength and control to catch themselves before they hit the ground. I had a client named Donna, 74, former nurse who had not been on the floor in years. She told me her greatest fear was falling in the house when no one was home, because she did not think she could get back up. I taught her to squat at the counter every morning, just a little lower each week. It took her 6 weeks to go from a shallow bend to a deep hold. One afternoon, she dropped her phone and, without thinking, squatted down and picked it up. She called me that night almost in tears. She said she felt like herself again. If your knees hurt, do not force depth. Stop where you feel a stretch but no pain, and hold there. If your heels lift, put a folded towel under them to start. You are not trying to win a contest. You are trying to convince your body that the floor is not the enemy. Now let us get your upper body involved. Number 7. Wall angels with scapular squeeze. Your shoulders are a disaster. I do not mean that unkindly, I mean it structurally. Decades of driving, computer work, reading, and forward-leaning tasks have pulled your shoulder blades apart and rotated them forward, collapsing your chest and crimping the space where your lungs live. In Japan, posture is still taught as a health practice, not just an etiquette rule. Seniors are guided to open the chest, draw the shoulders back, and create what they call a proud spine, not for vanity but because oxygen is life, and you cannot breathe fully when you are folded in half. Here is the mechanism. Your shoulder blades, your scapulae, should glide smoothly along your rib cage, controlled by a web of small muscles in your upper back. When those muscles weaken, your shoulders drift forward, your head juts out, and your center of gravity shifts. That makes you more likely to fall backward, and it makes every step feel heavier. Worse, that forward posture compresses your diaphragm, so you breathe shallow, your oxygen drops, and your brain gets less fuel. You feel tired, foggy, older than you are. Stand with your back against a wall, heels a few inches out, buttocks and shoulders touching the wall. Raise both arms to shoulder height, elbows bent 90 degrees, backs of your hands facing out like goalposts. This is your start position. Now, slowly slide your arms up the wall as high as you can without letting your lower back arch or your ribs flare forward. Hold 2 seconds at the top, then slide back down. As you move, squeeze your shoulder blades together as if you are trying to hold a pencil between them. Do 10 reps, slow and controlled. Why does this matter? Those small muscles between your shoulder blades, the rhomboids, and the lower trapezius are the ones that hold your posture upright without effort. When they fire properly, you do not have to think about standing tall. You just do. Research from posture and fall prevention labs has shown that improving scapular control can reduce forward head posture by up to 2 inches in just 4 weeks. And every inch you bring your head back over your spine saves your neck from carrying an extra 10 pounds of load. I worked with a man named Carl, 79, former machinist, who had developed a hunch so severe his daughter thought he had osteoporosis. His bone scan was fine. His muscles had just given up. I had him do wall angels twice a day, 10 reps each time, and I told him to imagine pulling his shoulder blades into his back pockets. In 3 weeks, his wife said he looked taller. In 6 weeks, he said his chronic neck pain was gone. He did not grow. He realigned. If you cannot get your arms flat against the wall, start lower, even at waist height, and work up. If your lower back arches too much, bend your knees slightly or step your feet farther from the wall. The goal is not to touch every point to the wall. The goal is to feel those upper back muscles working, because once they wake up, everything upstream and downstream gets easier. And now we go internal number 6, diaphragmatic breathing with pelvic floor engagement. You have been breathing wrong your entire adult life. That is not an insult, that is an observation. Watch a baby breathe. Their belly rises and falls, soft and full. Watch an adult under stress. Their chest heaves, their shoulders lift, and their belly is locked down like a vault. We learned to hold tension in our core, and over decades that tension became our default. It keeps your diaphragm from dropping fully, which means you are only using the top third of your lungs, which means you are running on fumes all day, which means your body thinks it is under threat, which means your cortisol stays high, which means you age faster. Here is the connection no one talks about. Your diaphragm and your pelvic floor are linked by pressure. When you breathe deeply, your diaphragm drops, your belly expands, and pressure gently pushes down, which cues your pelvic floor to lengthen. Then, when you exhale, your diaphragm rises and your pelvic floor gently lifts. That rhythm is supposed to happen 15 times a minute, all day, keeping your core strong and your organs supported. But if you breathe shallow and brace your belly, that rhythm dies, and your pelvic floor either weakens or gets too tight. Both cause problems. Leaking, prolapse, low back pain, hip pain, loss of core stability. Lie on your back, knees bent, feet flat on the floor. Place one hand on your chest, one on your belly. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 counts and let only your belly hand rise. Your chest hand should barely move. Feel your belly expand like a balloon filling with air. At the top of the breath, pause for 1 count. Then exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 counts, and as you do, gently draw your belly button toward your spine and imagine your pelvic floor lifting like an elevator rising 1 floor. Not clenching, just a gentle engagement. Pause for 1 count at the bottom, then repeat. Do this for 2 minutes. Why does this matter? Your core is not your six-pack. Your core is a cylinder. The diaphragm is the lid, the pelvic floor is the base, and the deep abdominals and back muscles are the walls. If the lid does not move, the whole system is compromised. Studies from pelvic health and respiratory clinics have shown that just 2 weeks of diaphragmatic breathing practice can improve pelvic floor function, reduce urinary urgency, and increase trunk stability in older adults. It also lowers resting heart rate and reduces anxiety, because deep breathing is the fastest way to tell your nervous system that you are safe. I guided a woman named Helen, 70, former accountant who had stress incontinence so bad she had stopped going to her book club. She was ashamed. Her doctor offered surgery. I asked her to practice diaphragmatic breathing for 2 minutes every morning and every night, and to pair the exhale with a gentle pelvic lift. In 10 days, she noticed she could sneeze without leaking. In 3 weeks, she went back to her book club. She told me it felt like someone handed her body back. If lying down is uncomfortable, do this seated in a chair, feet flat, spine tall. If you cannot feel your pelvic floor at first, do not worry. Just focus on the breath. The connection will come. And here is the thing. This is the only movement on the list you can do invisibly, anytime, anywhere. Sitting in traffic, waiting in line, watching television. It is the most boring exercise that will ever change your life. Now we go back to the feet, but this time we add load number 5. Single leg calf raises with hold. Your calves are your second heart. That is not a metaphor, that is physiology. When you walk or rise onto your toes, your calf muscles squeeze the deep veins in your lower leg and push blood back up toward your heart against gravity. If your calves are weak or you do not use them, blood and fluid pool in your feet and ankles, your circulation slows and your heart has to work harder. In Japan, where walking and public transit are still the norm, calf strength stays high into old age. Here, where we drive everywhere and wear soft shoes and walk on flat ground, our calves atrophy quietly, and we do not notice until we cannot push off the ground with power, which means we shuffle, which means we fall. Here is what is at stake. Your ability to rise onto your toes on one leg is one of the clearest markers of functional leg strength and balance. If you cannot do it, or if you can only do it a few times, you are at higher risk for falls, fractures, and loss of independence. A study from a balance research center found that seniors who could perform at least 10 single-leg calf raises per side had half the fall rate of those who could not. Stand at your counter, holding lightly for balance. Shift your weight onto your right leg and bend your left knee so that foot lifts off the ground. Now slowly rise up onto the ball of your right foot as high as you can. Hold for 2 seconds at the top, then lower with control. That is 1 rep. Do as many as you can with good form, up to 10. Rest. Switch legs. Do 3 sets per side. If you cannot do it on one leg yet, do it on both legs but make it slow and controlled. Progress to single leg over weeks. Why does this matter? Every time you rise onto your toes, you load your calf with 2 to 3 times your body weight, and that load is what keeps the muscle strong and the tendon springy. But more importantly, the hold at the top forces your foot and ankle to stabilize in the most vulnerable position, where most ankle sprains and stumbles happen. You are teaching your body to be strong and steady in a position it usually avoids. I had a client named Robert, 73, former plumber, who told me he felt like his legs were made of wood. He could walk, but he could not push off or spring forward. I had him do single-leg calf raises every day, starting with both legs on the counter, progressing to one leg over 4 weeks. By week 5, he said he could feel his legs again. He started taking stairs instead of the elevator. He said it was like someone oiled the machine. If you have Achilles tendon pain, do not force the height. Go only as high as feels comfortable, and lower very slowly. That slow lowering, the eccentric phase, is actually more therapeutic for tendons than the lift. If you have balance issues, keep both hands on the counter. You are not trying to prove you do not need help. You are trying to load the muscles safely. Now we go horizontal. Number 4. Prone lying with hip extension hold. This is the movement that surprises people because it looks like rest, but it is. One of the most powerful things you can do to protect your lower back and your gait. You lie face down on your bed or a mat, and you gently lift one leg a few inches off the surface and hold it there. That is it. No gym, no weights, no sweat. But here is what is happening. Your glutes, the big muscles of your buttocks, are supposed to be the prime movers when you walk. But in most people over 60, the glutes have gone quiet and the lower back and hamstrings are doing all the work. That is why your back hurts after a walk. That is why you feel weak going upstairs. Your engine is asleep. Here is the mechanism. When you lie face down and lift your leg, gravity is working against you in a way that isolates the glute and forces it to fire without help from momentum or other muscles. It is one of the purest glute activation patterns you can do, and because you are lying down, there is no balance challenge and no risk. Studies from physical therapy and gait labs have shown that seniors who perform prone hip extensions daily for just 2 weeks can improve walking speed and reduce lower back pain, because the glute starts to remember its job. Lie face down on your bed, arms at your sides or folded under your forehead. Keep your pelvis pressed into the bed. Straighten your right leg and slowly lift it 2 to 4 inches off the bed, no higher. You should feel the contraction in your right buttock, not in your lower back. If you feel your back arching or cramping, you are lifting too high. Hold for 5 seconds. Lower with control. Do 10 reps. Switch legs. Do this once a day. Why does this matter? Your glutes are the foundation of your gait. When they fire properly, each step is powerful and efficient. When they do not, you shuffle. Your knees take extra load, your hips hurt, and your lower back compensates. Reactivating the glute is not about vanity. It is about being able to walk across a parking lot without pain, being able to climb a single step without dread. I worked with a woman named Grace, 67, former librarian, who had chronic lower back pain that her doctor said was just age. She could not walk more than 10 minutes without having to sit. I had her do prone hip extensions every morning, 10 per side, slow and controlled. She said the first week she could barely feel her glutes working. By the second week, she felt a burn. By the fourth week, her back pain was 50% better, and she was walking 20 minutes at a time. She did not fix her back. She woke up her glutes, and her back finally got to rest. If lying face down is uncomfortable for your neck, turn your head to one side or place a small pillow under your forehead. If you have shoulder issues, rest your arms by your sides. If even a small lift bothers your back, start with just squeezing. Your glute without lifting, hold 5 seconds, repeat. The contraction is what teaches the muscle. The lift is just proof. And now we add vision. Number 3. Gaze stabilization with head turns. Your balance is not just in your feet and your core, it is in your eyes. Your brain uses vision to orient itself in space, and when your head moves, your eyes are supposed to stay locked on a target through a reflex called the vestibulo-ocular reflex, or VR. That reflex keeps the world stable when you move. But after 60, that reflex can slow down. And when it does, you get dizzy when you turn your head quickly, you lose your place when you look up or down, and you feel unsteady in busy environments like grocery stores. Most people do not realize this is trainable. Here is what happens. Inside your inner ear are 3 tiny semicircular canals filled with fluid. When you turn your head, the fluid moves, sensors detect the direction and speed, and signals shoot to your eye muscles to move your eyes in the opposite direction at the exact same speed, so your gaze stays fixed. It is one of the most elegant systems in your body, but it needs practice. If you spend all day looking at screens and never moving your head much, the system gets lazy. Then one day you turn your head quickly and the world swims, and you feel old. Sit in a chair, feet flat, spine tall. Hold your thumb out at arm's length in front of your face. Focus on your thumbnail. Now, keeping your eyes locked on your thumb, turn your head slowly to the right as far as is comfortable, then back to center, then to the left, then back to center. Your eyes should not leave your thumb. Do this 10 times, slow and smooth. Then do the same thing but move your head up and down, eyes still on the thumb, 10 times. Do this twice a day. Why does this matter? When your VOR is sharp, you can turn your head to check traffic, look down at a step, glance over your shoulder, all without losing your balance or your orientation. When it is sluggish, those same movements make you dizzy or hesitant, and hesitation is when falls happen. Research from vestibular therapy clinics has shown that gaze stabilization exercises can reduce dizziness and improve balance confidence in older adults within 2 to 3 weeks. I guided a man named Frank, 76, former electrician, who told me he had stopped driving because he felt dizzy every time he checked his blind spot. His doctor found nothing wrong with his ears. I taught him gaze stabilization exercises, twice a day, 2 minutes each time. Within 10 days, he said the dizziness was less. Within a month, he was driving again. He did not heal his ears. He retrained the reflex. If the movement makes you dizzy at first, slow down and do fewer reps. Dizziness means the system is weak, not that you should stop. Just go gently. If you cannot hold your arm up, tape a target to the wall at eye level and focus on that while you turn your head. The key is that your eyes stay still and your head moves. That is the opposite of what most of us do all day. Now we go back to the feet, but this time we close the eyes. Number 2. Single leg standing with eyes closed. This is the one that surprises physical therapists because it is so simple and so hard. You stand on one leg and you close your eyes. That is it. Most people over 60 cannot do this for more than a few seconds, and that is a flashing red light, because when you close your eyes, you remove 60 to 80% of the sensory input your brain uses for balance. What is left is your inner ear and the sensors in your foot and ankle. And if those systems are weak, you will wobble or fall immediately. But here is the good news. Those systems respond to training faster than almost anything else. Here is the mechanism. Your brain builds balance by integrating 3 inputs: vision, vestibular, and proprioception. If all 3 are strong, you are stable in any condition. But if you always rely on vision, the other 2 get lazy. That is why people say they feel unsteady in the dark or on uneven ground. You've been using your eyes as a crutch. Single leg standing with eyes closed forces your brain to rely on the 2 systems that really matter, and in doing so, it makes them stronger. Stand next to your counter, feet hip width. Shift your weight onto your right leg and lift your left foot an inch off the ground. Get steady. Now close your eyes and try to hold for 10 seconds. Keep your arms out for balance if you need to, and keep your fingertips near the counter in case you wobble. Do not be discouraged if you cannot do it at first. Just notice how long you can hold, then switch legs. Do this every day, and every few days add a second or 2. Work up to 30 seconds per side. Why does this matter? A study from a fall prevention research group found that the ability to stand on one leg with eyes closed for at least 10 seconds was one of the strongest predictors of fall-free aging. People who could do it had 1/3 the fall rate of those who could not, because their brains had built redundancy. If one system failed, the others could compensate. That is what resilience looks like in the nervous system. I had a client named Evelyn, 81, former seamstress who had fallen twice in 6 months, both times in low light. She was terrified of the dark. I had her practice single leg standing with eyes closed every day, starting with 3 seconds per side, building up over weeks. It took her 2 months to reach 15 seconds. She said the first time she walked to the bathroom at night without fear, she cried. She had not realized how much of her world had shrunk because of that fear. If you cannot lift your foot at all with eyes closed, start with eyes open and just shift your weight heavily onto one leg, feeling what it is like to balance on one side. Then try closing your eyes for 1 second while you are still on both feet and gradually combine the 2 challenges. Your brain will adapt. It just needs time and repetition. And now, the one that changes everything. Number 1. The sit-to-stand test, practiced daily. This is the most humble, most powerful, most predictive movement in the entire human movement library, and most people do not even know it is a test. You sit on the floor, legs crossed or extended, no hands, and you stand up, no hands. That is it. If you can do it, your risk of dying in the next 6 years is a fraction of someone who cannot. If you cannot do it, every day you practice getting closer is a day you are adding time to your life. Here is what the research shows. The study followed over 2,000 adults aged 50 to 80 for more than 6 years, and they found that people who could sit and rise from the floor without using their hands had 1/6 the mortality rate of people who needed both hands and knees. Not fall rate, mortality rate. Because the ability to get down to the ground and back up without help is a window into your strength, your flexibility, your balance, your proprioception, your body awareness, and your confidence. It is a full system test, and your body knows it. Here is the mechanism. To sit on the floor and stand without hands, you need hip mobility to fold down, core stability to control the descent, leg strength to push back up, balance to manage the transition, and the neurological coordination to sequence all of that smoothly. It is one of the most complex motor tasks a human can do, and it is one we are designed to do, but we stopped practicing it. In Japan, sitting on the floor is still part of daily life. Meals, tea, gatherings, the movement never leaves the repertoire. Here, we sit in chairs from childhood to grave and we lose the movement by 50. Then we lose everything downstream from it. Start wherever you are. If you cannot get to the floor at all, practice sitting and standing from a low chair or a bench without using your hands. When that feels strong, go lower. Use a cushion or a step. Lower still. Eventually, sit on the floor however you need to, using your hands, and practice standing up with less and less hand support each week. If you are already on the floor, practice sitting down and standing up without hands, one smooth motion. Do this once a day, every single day. Why does this matter? Because independence is not about how far you can walk or how much you can lift. It is about whether you can get yourself off the ground. Falls are scary, but what is more scary is falling and not being able to get back up. That is when people lie on the floor for hours waiting for help. That is when the real injury happens. That is when people lose their homes, their autonomy, their lives as they knew them. The sit-to-stand test is not about passing a test. It is about practicing the one movement that keeps you sovereign in your own body. I guided a woman named Margaret, 78, former teacher, who had not been on the floor in a decade. She was afraid of it. I told her we would start with a sturdy chair, just sitting and standing with her arms crossed 10 times a day. She did that for 2 weeks. Then we went to a lower chair. 2 more weeks, then a cushion on the floor. 2 more weeks, then the floor, sitting with her legs to one side, using one hand to press up. After 3 months, she sat cross-legged on her living room floor and stood up without touching anything. She stood there and laughed. She said she felt invincible. She was not invincible. She was just prepared. If you have knee replacements or hip issues, honor your structure. Use your hands as needed, but keep practicing the movement, because the practice is what tells your brain you are still capable. If you can already do the sit-to-stand, do it daily as a maintenance drill, and challenge yourself with different leg positions, slower speed, eyes closed for part of it. Keep your nervous system guessing. That is what keeps it young. So here is the principle underneath all 10 of these movements. Aging is not a disease. It is a negotiation. Your body will do what you ask of it, but you have to ask. You have to load it, challenge it, move it through ranges and in ways that mimic the unpredictable world. You do not need a gym. You do not need equipment. You need 15 minutes a day and the humility to start where you are. These 10 movements done in this order every morning will wake up your ankles, stabilize your balance, open your hips, align your posture, connect your breath, strengthen your calves and glutes, train your vision and vestibular system, and teach your body that the ground is not dangerous. That is not anti-aging. That is pro-living. The Japanese do not call it exercise. They call it daily cultivation. You are not working out. You are tending to the system that carries you through the world. And if you tend to it, it will carry you farther and longer than you think possible. So tell me in the comments which one of these 10 movements will you start with tomorrow and why. I want to know where you are and where you are going. Let's keep each other accountable.